Steve, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, Nick. Thank you.
Great. Thanks
Good
for
to be
coming.
here.
Oh, yeah. No, we finally managed to find a time to do a podcast. I know we've been talking about it for ages, and every time you come over, I'm always begging for your time, but you're finally here, and that's all that matters.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. So, cool. So, for everyone who's listening, can you please tell us a bit about yourself, about your background, and also what originally got you to starting Baycom?
Well, background. My background's telco, and telco starting about many years ago, Telecom New Zealand, which is now Spark New Zealand. And that was, a long time ago, obviously. After that, I jumped into distribution, an exclusive distributor of a PABX vendor, and I ran that distribution channel for quite a number of years, probably about 15 years. And out of that, with my reseller channel, an opportunity came up down in little old Tauranga, which is the Bay of Plenty, which is halfway down the North Island of New Zealand. And so we jumped out and we acquired this very small telecommunication company. It was doing key phone systems, Arias, Samsung, that sort of stuff. We jumped out and we gassed it up a little bit. We took on the debt. We raised the bar. We went for a larger corporate systems and solutions, including contact center. So even then we were trying to create recurring revenue streams, i.e. As a managed service. So we were financing the managed service. We were so used to downloading, selling a phone system in CapEx, and also finance deal. So yeah. So
and then that was the start of Baycom, and it grew up to what it is right now.
Then, that was the start of it, and then we brought head office up to Auckland, probably about 5-6 years ago, and grew it, and that was the start of Baycom, and since then we've expanded out into the UC vertical, we've got CC vertical, we do video conferencing, collaboration, and now a bit of IT as well, but that was the start of Baycom, and now we're in Auckland, nearly 40 staff, we've got national coverage. And things are going well. Yeah,
nice. No, that's good. So before we get a bit more into Baycom, as you sort of said, you started in the distribution game, grew into sort of what Baycom is now. How have you seen the sort of technology industry change in that time, especially, I guess, from the communication side, which was sort of your bread and butter?
Well, the obvious change is cloud.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back in the days when we were selling phone systems, very proprietary hardware, and all the usual vendors. We all know NEC, Avaya, Cisco, Mitel.
Yep.
We do all that, and how it's changed is it's very difficult, well, not difficult, but to actually take on a new product in those days, it was proprietary command line, it was, you had to be certified, expensive in the labs.
Yep.
Now with cloud, it's actually in some ways been a bit easier, obviously a lot easier to create a recurring revenue stream on a subscription basis. And it has been easier just to also deploy and support. It's all, the architecture's the same across the board. In some other ways, because cloud is a lot easier to deploy, we've probably have a lot more competition in the market, especially with international borders being broken down, cloud to cloud.
Yep.
So in saying that, there's but across, in general, the whole thing is, it's great. The business model is working really well with, the likes of Access Force, with our recurring revenue. We're probably close to 70% now, which is great.
So what was, like, switching from the, moving boxes and the big hardware play into cloud, what was the biggest shift that you sort of had to make as a business? Is it more about from a cash flow perspective, you're now kind of moving from, the big hardware sales into a more of a subscription model? Or, as you said before, you always sort of accounted for that in your business, so it was a bit smoother for you?
No, you're right. I know I've heard of the term the value of death, and that is going from the old CapEx days, a finance model, to a recurring revenue model, and there's that cash flow value of it's tough, and when it gets going, when you're across the other side, it's a great thing. It's happy days. But yes, we did. We knew that, and that's why when we did do cloud, we made a decision. We've got to go fast and hard. So it sucked a bit of cash out of the business, but there was a goal. and really we had no choice. I mean,
Yes.
it was happening anyway. So
Yep.
yeah. So I'm just glad we did it sooner rather than later. It's probably a little bit more difficult today with the competition out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it's worked out well.
Okay, no, that's good. So I'd love to get a bit more into how you've also sort of evolved the business, as in, you know, you started and still do focus on business communications, but you're also picking up a bit more of IT, as you sort of said. So that's another kind of transition that you would have had to take the business through, I imagine. So what originally triggered that decision to begin that sort of journey and pick up more purely IT services?
Well, you know, I guess we've always done an element of IT when it comes in, when voice is involved, be it a contact centre, be it SIP trunk, and be it network services, be it voice over Wi-Fi. So we've always had an element of IT. But 2 years ago, we made a conscious effort to put more resource into our IT stack and bring on more the traditional MSP type services, managed services, data centre services, security, etc. And we did that. Again, sort of not forced into it, but we knew there was more on the table. And to quote Brad in your recent podcast about the trusted advisor, like to be that, I've got to have a bigger story. I mean, we're already at the table, but we need to have a bigger story, and to have that. And we always wanted to be that true ICT business that we could do the whole stack. So, bigger share of the wallet, more on the table, trusted advisor. So that's partly, and really. And the other thing as well, once we actually did do voice solutions, and when there's an incumbent IT company, a lot of the time there'd be a lot of finger pointing.
Sure.
So it was a necessary, it was an obvious migration to more IT support services. So early days, but
Yeah, cool. Well. And you find is that a everyone always talks about one throat to choke, and you can provide all the comms stuff, but now you can also do some of the IT work. Is that a larger value proposition for the larger end users and customer businesses, the more enterprise, or do you also find that to be a strong value proposition in the SME space as well?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, because if up the food stack in corporate enterprise, it's probably more of an outsourced model to an incumbent IT division internally.
Okay.
So the MSP model down to that sort of 20, 30, up to 60 endpoints is probably a sweet spot for doing the whole stack. I mean, again, early days, but we're seeing probably more of that. At the larger end of town, more the data centre services is what we're seeing more interest, and that's around local government as well, so storage and things like that. So, it's not one size fits all, and the conversations varied depending on that.
Okay. And how would you, split your tech resources when it comes to the communication side versus the more IT side? Do you have dedicated resources and teams looking after the IT side versus the voice side, or...?
Yeah, there's some subtle differences between voice and IT, and we've probably discovered a few of them. And they're subtle, but there's a lot of subtleties involved. And you're right, even the language that they speak, is different. So, the end game is to have an ICT, and that's on sales and technical. I know it's very difficult. So I'd say, I'm guessing going forward, even though we talk an ICT game, I think there's always going to be expertise in different areas, and that's where, contact centres in itself is a specialised.
Yeah, it is.
And that's our DNA. Voice and contact centres, etc. And that's a good question, and we're trying our best to pull it together.
Okay.
And all the back end tools as well have to change as well, because the IT tools are different to the voice tools. So. It's challenging, but that's our aim and desire to sort of bring it all together the best we can. Yeah,
so the vision would be to have one team that can do either voice or the IT side of things, and it's just all one bundled shared service division.
It is. There's a black and white, but there's quite a big element of grey between. There is an ICT play. Like if you're going to go out there and you're going to be doing a cloud contact centre, well, there's now architecture in this cloud, but there's also the contact centre. There's design and build and queuing and all that sort of stuff and recording, etc. So they're all, as a team, working together. So you're right, there are specialists in voice and there's specialists in IT.
Cool. And from a sales perspective, I imagine it must be quite different as well. I mean, we always, we work with a lot of MSPs, for example, and we have to work with them and educate them about how to sell voice when they're so used to selling, say, MSP or security or something like that. For you guys, it would have been the opposite. There would have been already used to selling voice, and now they have to learn to talk about IT. So similar sort of challenges, I imagine?
Similar challenges, yeah. I mean, I don't know how difficult it is for IT. A lot of the IT companies, the smaller ones particularly, that we do come across, they do voice. We have found historically they don't do it well.
Yep.
They don't do anything complicated, and if they do, they can get a little bit into trouble a little bit, especially around the contact centre place. So
sure.
So it is tricky, but
Yep.
but we're getting there, and we're really excited. I mean, again. I know we harp on a little bit with Access 4, and we sort of want you to come on, give me some more sizzle. And now with your channel UC merge, I think it's great news for us. I mean, we're really excited about that, especially around the contact centre play. Really keen to get some of that going this year. That's music to our ears. That's fantastic.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned contact centre a bit times, and you've been in the contact centre space for a long time. For those out there who are, I guess, a bit more naive on the topic, when does a business, either service oriented or whatever it might be, think about switching from a more traditional voice or UCaaS solution to a fully fledged contact center? What are the normal decision making processes there when they think, okay, now's the time to make that investment into this big contact center?
Again, it's you got to go up that stack. If you go to the big end of town, I mean, a contact centre is a contact centre. So you actually don't really want to have it based on something that does UC. It is its own solution.
Yeah.
Smaller down, it's actually quite nice to have that integration between the back office, UC, and the contact centre.
Okay.
And saying that, we had a conversation with one of your partners yesterday. And saying that, really, do you really want to have your contact centre on something that could be vulnerable and have a couple of outages every 4, 5, 6 months? Well, that won't work at the big end of town. That's not going to happen. So, but for the SME, SMB, I think they're having that single stack.
Yep.
Just to 1 and 2 different products bolted together. That was definitely something that we've always strived for with the models and some of the solutions that we've looked at.
Yeah.
And,
cool.
So nice to have.
Yeah, cool, good stuff. So, I mean, you're based in Auckland. You got national coverage in New Zealand. You come over to Australia every so often as well.
When you invite us,
Yeah, when you get invited, there you go. So always happy to have you guys over. But I'd love to get your perspective, I guess, what the differences are on the New Zealand and Australian market, if you do have a perspective on that, because we have a number of partners in New Zealand. We've got a lot in Australia. Not all of them cross the ditch, so to say, and have that sort of ANZ coverage. So I'm interested, what sort of movement in the markets you're seeing and how they sort of differ.
And the biggest thing is scale. I mean, Australia's a lot bigger than New Zealand.
Yep.
Pick a state of Australia, and we're one of those. So, but again, even in that, you can say, well, hang on, you're the size of Queensland, so you should be doing the same. But it's not quite like that. We don't have any large bank head offices, and
sure.
So scale, size, and that's why that mid-market. Well, we would call you would call mid-market, which is probably more our corporates, lower enterprise.
Okay.
That's where we're at. Another difference historically, and that gap's probably come together a little bit more. New Zealand, and I'm not trying to be an arrogant Kiwi, but we were always about 18 months ahead of New Zealand's a land of early adopters.
Okay.
So 18 months-ish, I mean, when SIP trunking came out and way back then, etc. About 18 and 2 years ahead, and some of that adopting newer technologies. Again, you've got a bigger market. It just takes, it's a big
takes
crank
longer
to crank.
get
So
it in,
we had a bit of that going on in New Zealand. So that's one thing. But again, with cloud and these borders being broken down, that's probably sort of lessened to a degree, I'd say. But the big thing is scale.
The scale, yeah. But otherwise, apparently, we've got a lot to learn from you guys if whatever technology you're using now.
Yeah. So, but our scale. But, we get a lot of, cloud being so easy now to cross borders, and you get every month you're hearing about something that you've never heard of before. But you wouldn't got that in the old days in the voice world anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I can name the 5 vendors and you'd heard of 5 of them.
Yeah.
And so,
that's it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, I mean, just talking about, I guess, new technology and change. You know, like I don't want to say it because I tell people we shouldn't talk about it, but you know, a whole lot of change happened during the pandemic, for example, which changed a lot of the face of the sort of MSP and IT services it stands right now. What do you see as the next big thing that's going to have the biggest impact on and sort of your business and the industry in general over the next 5 to 10 years?
Mm-hmm. I think keeping up with the pace of technology. I mean, the technology is just, you know, there's just more and more, and it's just getting faster and faster. So to have staff that can keep up with this pace, it's getting tricky. And it's tricky to find, you know, employees that, you know, are smart enough and can run with it, and they're flexible enough to go forward. So it is becoming rapid. I mean, and there's always things that will come along. AI is a topical, you know, thing they talk about. You know, from us as business sides, like, okay, that's fantastic, but how do you make money out of that? How do you monetize AI as an MSP? Yeah. I mean, yes, you can do your workshops, you can do your whatever, but you know, so I'm sure Channel UC's thought about this. So you know, we'll hopefully make some money out of AI. But there's always going to be something new in the market. It just seems to be just rapid. Right?
So just I guess talking a bit about more the staff issue, as you sort of said, you know, we've sort of seen there, you know, for a number of years, especially during the pandemic, there was sort of a war for talent, right? It was either hard to find talent or, you know, especially during COVID, people were moving all sorts of places and you just couldn't find them, say, in the major cities like Auckland or wherever else. So especially for what you guys are selling, contact center, as you said, is quite specialized. Do you find that you need to be looking in the sort of key hubs to find this sort of stuff, or is it just more about the pure volume of talent that's out there?
The post-COVID. I mean, I think New Zealand suffered a lot more than Australia because we stole most of our good players. And, you know, I don't know who's stealing them from you, probably the States, but it's just that flow-on effect. Yeah, we really got... we've lost a lot of you know, IT specialists across the ditch, Australia and various other areas. So that has been a challenge post-COVID, definitely. We're hoping that's going to come right, and there's this, you know, green shoots of that coming right in our market. So maybe that's sort of the grass is not greener, and they come back from Australia. But we've suffered for that. It's a common problem in New Zealand.
Is it more of the technical hires or the sales hires that you normally struggle with the most?
It's probably a bit of both, to be fair. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, customers are pretty well educated now. They've got, you know, you just Google it and you've got the answer. So you know, for a salesman to go in like the old days, you know, today I think you've actually got to have a level of competence in what your subject matter is, and because you're easily found out with customers today. So
that's it.
Having those sort of people, which is a slightly different salesperson from the old days, they need to understand their product and be able to talk confidently in front of a customer.
Yeah, but we also sort of find that it's not just about talking about the product, it's actually talking about the impact of this product on your customer's business. You need to be able to get to that sort of a level, because it's not just moving boxes anymore. You're putting in solutions that are way more integrated into a customer's stack normally, and the business owners now, they want to see the business outcomes out of this technology. It's not just about price.
100%. Yeah, they've got to understand like the commercial aspect of what they're delivering, because if there's no outcome for a business owner, you're right. You know, when it's about making money or saving money at the end of the day.
That's it.
So they've got to have that. It's quite a rounded, you know, you think about it, it's quite a rounded skill set. And it's hard. And the other thing as well, a lot of that is experience. So to find experienced people that can talk confidently about a solution, it's tricky. It's very hard.
And then you got to pay for those competent people and those the best
I know,
the best talent.
Quite unreasonable, really.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
And we say no, and just want to go to Australia.
No, there you go. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about AI before, right? Like, I don't think I've had a guest on this show yet that doesn't mention AI to some extent. But I think what you said about monetizing AI is really important, as in, you know, every single event that happens in the industry right now, it's either about AI or there's a massive focus on AI. But I still think a lot of technology providers, they struggle with how we actually going to monetize this, right? Like, you know, everyone's doing content and webinars on Copilot, for example, but there's the licensing upside from Copilot isn't amazing, and it's more of an impact for end users. But otherwise, for MSPs or even vendors, how do you monetize this AI? Like, what is the answer there?
Yeah, and at least you're making money out of while you're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, and the vendors, it's all included Copilot. That's already there. They're already downloaded. So that's a challenge. So I'm interested to see what. I know you mentioned Channel UC talking about AI. Interested to see what they come up with. But I'm sure something will pan out. It's 30 days. And AI is a bit of a throwaway line. What do you mean by AI?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's so many different variations of what AI actually means. We've got a little way to go, 2 steps forward.
Yeah, that's it. And, people talk about AI sometimes when it's probably not even AI, it's just really, really, really smart software, for example, that picks up a few data and correlates it in a certain way. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I think on the voice side, there's a lot of promising things on the roadmap. I mean, there's a lot out there with AI auto attendants and other things like that, and AI powered IVRs and so on. Have you sunk your teeth into some of that stuff, or?
I mean, AI's been around for 15 years. I think IBM Watson. I mean, it has been around, but it's the definition of what are we talking about. So you just got to go, what do we actually talk about?
Yeah,
because the definition of can be wide and varied, and again, IVR, speech recognition, this is all AI, isn't it? So, I just think it just needs to be sort of, condensed down to something. What are we actually talking about, and then we'll go from there. So to me, it's a conversation piece that we can all talk about, but the solution will be multiple bits and pieces put together. But otherwise, and that's what we're doing. We're selling solutions. So
that's it.
And it'll go laterally across the whole proposition, not just your back office UC. It'll be part of your contact center, probably part of your VCN collaboration with smart Teams rooms, etc. And again, IT is threaded all the way through that.
Yeah, cool. All right. So what's coming up for Baycom this year? I mean, we're recording this in January, still January. It's amazing. But what's coming up for you guys in 2025 that you're excited about?
We're probably glad to see the back of 2024. Not that it was a bad year, but I think 2025 for us, and I think in general, I'm talking about the New Zealand economy, I think it's going to be a good year. We think 26 is going to be a bumper year.
Okay.
I just think it's just, that reckoning, we've gone through, Australia and New Zealand gone through some tough times, post-COVID and all that sort of washing out, cost of living crisis, interest rates are through the roof. Everything's starting to come right, and I think 25 is going to be it's going to be a good year, but I think it's going to be a precursor to a bumper 26.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just think it's just, I think just the economy-wise, I think we're just due for a bit of an uplift.
No, cool. That's exciting. So, I think we can wrap up the conversation there. So thanks for coming on the show. For anyone who's listening who might want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Baycom ICT, all my details there. Just give us a call. Again, most of the audience, you're Australians, so anything you want to do in New Zealand, I mean, we're there, we're a partner, we partner really well, which I haven't mentioned. We do partner well. We've got a white label sort of offering to some of the larger organisations who probably don't have the budget to do a solution, the detail that we do. So, by all means, give us a call, anything around UCCC, video collaboration or IT in New Zealand.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Thank you very much. And you have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Nick.
Cheers, Steve.